right, wide receiver group. I am not probably as, I don't know if bullish is the right word, but as bullish on them as you are, Corey. I believe in.
I'm bullish.
You said you believe, like, you're more excited about them than you have been in recent years.
Everything is relative, Elliot. Everything is relative.
Okay. When you've got,
I think Kade Weegen's going to. I think Kade Weegen's going to play a lot.
Yes, he will. Yeah. What I was telling Adam Jacoby, our publisher at iowa.rivals.com, is after the open spring practice, in terms of like airing the ball out, obviously you've got Luke Lachey, obviously you've got Addison Ostrenga, obviously you got Zach Ortworth. But in terms of that wide receiver group, it really feels like their only hope is Caleb Brown and Kade Weegen. We don't know anything about Jarriett Buoy. We don't know anything about Dayton Howard. We have heard the name Alec Wick a lot for like, that is just like a running joke in my head at this point. And you've got two freshman wide receivers, Reese Vanderzee, who is thin but will be a true X at some point in time. KJ Parker.
He's not there yet. Neither of them are there yet.
That's what I'm just going to say. I was going to say KJ Parker is reporting as well in June. And I think KJ Parker is more of a receiver that Lester likes, even though he was brought on before Lester, right? Like, he's a guy you can get the ball to in space and is going to go make a play. And that's what you want, right? And so I don't think either of them play this year.
You did miss one guy in there, Alex Moda.
Moda. Brain fart, sorry.
Who was he even dressed? I don't think he was dressed for spring, was he?
Cast wrap sort of thing. I don't know that he broke anything.
But see, again, my point is that's more development time lost.
Exactly. They're not in a good spot as far as wide receiver goes.
Now, one guy you didn't mention at the top was Seth Anderson. So he's missed two straight spring practices. Where's your concern with him other than just he's still in large part unproven?
Well, supposedly he's supposed to be back at 100% for fall. So I'll say that first. The thing that I am probably more confused than concerned about with Seth Anderson is how little he played at the end of the year. Like, did he see the field in that Big Ten championship bowl game?
Again, that was a Brian Ferentz-led offense, so anything that happened under his direction, I just toss out the window. But I agree.
I don't know why. I would love to know why.
Why did Brian do a lot of things? I mean, at some point, why did Brian do a lot of things?
Yeah.
Why wasn't Marco Lionz? Listen, why wasn't Marco Lionz at least a part of a game plan at some point? With as bad as quarterback play was, regardless of his arm, with his leg talent, why was he at least not used at some point somewhere? The only thing I can think of, Mark, and this took a lot of deep meditation and pondering, is incompetence. That's the only thing I can really think of as to why you wouldn't put, and I'm not saying that Brian Ferentz as a person is incompetent, but as far as personnel and decision-making, that is an incompetent decision, in my opinion, based on what we've seen from him on the ground.
It's not the Iowa way. You choose a starting quarterback, and that's your starting quarterback. You don't mess around with bringing somebody else in to give the defense a different look, confuse anybody.
You know what?
You don't want to do that.
I heard this from Scott Docterman. Does incredible work for The Athletic. I think it was on Legends and Listeners. They were talking about Lisa Bluter and how she molded how they did things in the tournament to fit the skill set and the personnel that they had, because Molly Davis was out, right? They had to change things. He said if Lisa Bluter was the head coach of Iowa football last year, they would have been running the Wildcat. But that's not how Iowa does things. They're not flexible. They have a way they do things, and that's the way they do things, and that's it. I mean, Cooper DeJean would have been Wildcat quarterback, right? If Lisa Bluter, that would have been the best option last year. But obviously it didn't happen.
By the way, Scott Jensen, who's made a couple of comments here recently on my channel. I've not responded to Scott, and I don't know if this is tongue-in-cheek, but he said this multiple times in response to a couple of posts. Kade will be healthy for 2024. No need for another backup. Oh, my God. I mean, do people actually, and no offense to Scott, but do people actually, is that really where they're at? That we just know Kade McNamara, who's coming off 2 serious knee injuries, he is going to be healthy. Whoever, even if a guy is 100%, like even Patrick Mahomes needs a capable backup.
Exactly.
Kade doesn't
even if it could be guaranteed that he's 100% right now, we only have assurance that he's probably going to be 100% when he steps on the field of day 1 of August camp.
Who do they play week 1? Who do they play week 1? Illinois State?
I was going to say Illinois State or Troy.
Okay. No, Troy's week 3 because I got a wedding that weekend. If Illinois State comes with some D end and and Nick DeYoung is somebody's dinged up and Nick DeYoung's playing tackle. Poor Nick DeYoung. Pella native, love the kid, but poor Nick DeYoung. He lines up as the tackle and he just completely whiffs. And somebody just takes Kade out. I mean, just blasts him. 1 play into the season, now all of a sudden it's about the backup. So I hope people can have some perspective here.
Or doesn't. Like Cade's contact or injury last year was non-contact.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is
if they just call a bootleg and Kade McNamara is out there in space and has to turn a corner and all of a sudden,
like Corey, we saw it in the open spring practice. Even during warm-ups, he was gimping around.
Well, hopefully that's different in a month because he was moving very gingerly on those legs, just during the little activity that we saw from him on the sidelines.
Right. And I mean, I don't know how much you saw the social team posted that he played in this softball game with a big thing on his knee. I mean, it wasn't his brace, but I mean, I guess that can be considered encouraging if you really, really want to be delusional.
You know what? When Kade McNamara committed to Iowa a year and a half ago, everybody was so head over heels. And again, we've talked about why that was, and it made sense. However, I said multiple times leading up to last season, regardless of his health, I said Kade McNamara is going to disappoint a ton of Iowa fans. And that's nothing against Kade McNamara, but the expectations for him were ridiculous. But they were relative to what we have seen and how pitiful Iowa's room is. You get a guy who just was able to at least be a game manager at a Power 5 program, and you're doing cartwheels. And so I think we have to realize that, like, not only are you getting a guy who, yeah, he's proven, but he's just proven as a game manager. He's not some guy who's going to tear up the field on the ground, throw the ball 50 yards down the field. He's a game manager, and he's also coming off 2 serious knee injuries, has not proven that he can stay healthy, and has not really played a long stretch of competitive football for, 3 years? I remember last August when remember the social media post, Elliot, when he was out, right? He missed kids, or he got hurt at Kids Day. He's out, and then like a week or two before the season started, Iowa posted that picture with it was like Kinnick and the water tower and the sun in the background, and all it said was like number 12. Like, he's back. Like, we treat this guy like he's some superhero.
Yeah. They love him on the social channel.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him, but I'm just saying, I think a lot of people's this is how they consume information, right? They, like you just said, the social media is the driving force for a lot of this. And so people just got to, as best they can, try to check themselves and realize the big picture of who's in that room, what they still need, and reasonable expectations.
To go along with the storylines that you guys just painted, let me throw another one out there. Let's say Kade McNamara makes it to week 5, and this team's going to Columbus, Ohio. And the last time these guys saw Kade McNamara, he was taking a Big Ten championship away from them, and they were losing their first game in forever and being denied a college football playoff appearance and a number 1 seed in the playoffs and the whole deal. Now, I'm not accusing Ohio State players of going to take cheap shots or anything like that, but don't be surprised if there's not just a little bit more incentive from some really fast, talented players that should have one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the country.
I'll give Deacon Hill credit for this, and I know this is anecdotal, but I'll give Deacon Hill credit for I never worried about him getting hurt. Not because I didn't care if he got hurt. I promise that's not what I mean, but it was this big physical guy, a lot tougher on the field than Spencer Petras ever was. And I have nothing against Spencer Petras, but proof is in the pudding. On the football field, he appeared to be the more physical, tougher player, even though he made a lot of mistakes. He wasn't very accurate with the football. I can't say the same thing about Kade McAfee because I have not seen him take a beating over a long period of time and hold up. And like you said, Elliot, that was the play against, what was it, Penn State or Michigan State, whatever it was, like Michigan State. When he went down was completely non-contact. And when he went down at Kids Day, it was non-contact. That's where this all started. It was at Kids Day last August. I mean, those things happen. And unfortunately, some guys are prone.
And here's the thing as well, and I don't want to forecast anything negative here because I want everyone to be healthy, but there's a long history in every sport of once you get hurt, even if you've been extremely healthy to that point, there's a long history of a lot of guys that once you get hurt, it's difficult for a lot of guys, not everyone, to stay healthy after that.
I watched your morning show this morning, Mark. And you were talking about Bo Jackson, and for a guy as incredibly gifted as Bo Jackson was, one freak thing, and he was never the same. By the way, let me make a quick correction as to something you said this morning, because I want to make this very clear. This is related to Iowa. You made the comment that graduates can enter the portal at any time. That's no longer the case as of last month. So graduates can no longer enter. That portal window closed for them one day after the window closed for everybody else. So, like, at this point, had it been the rule not been changed, I'd have been like, okay, they may still lose somebody, somebody that graduates early and they head out in June like Charlie Jones did. That's not going to happen. So, like Elliot outlined the ways they get down to 85 as it stands. It's not going to be through a graduate transfer.
Yeah, the NCAA in their infinite wisdom gave them one more day. Then
you don't get what was the point of that?
I have no idea. Why does the NCAA do a lot of things? It's likening Brian Ferentz to the NCAA, like we were having that conversation a bit ago. That was when I wrote an article about what they're going to do about their transfer or their scholarship situation. That was the first headline, or one of the first bullet points is don't count on the transfer or the grad transfers, because that's a situation you can't. It's like that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we don't need to get into right now. But it's just another NCAA stupid thing that they decided to change for some apparent reason that I don't understand.
And we haven't talked about this yet, but with Ed Podolak stepping away, the rumor mill has indicated to me through some anonymous sources that Elliot Clough is one of the top candidates to replace Ed Podolak.
The rumor mill is wrong.
I promise it wasn't the same source that gave me the Brendan.
Okay, all right.
We'll keep that one anonymous too. So
the experience on ESPN Plus from college just wasn't enough.
Were you on ESPN Plus in college?
Yeah, I did color for women's basketball and softball at UNI.
Wow, awesome!
So,
you have some of that footage? I'm sure you do.
I sure I could go back into the email and find it. I'm sure I submitted it somewhere for a job that I got rejected from.
Absolutely.
It all worked out.
Yes.
It all worked out.
Shout out to Rivals for paying the bills, man.
Exactly.